I took the night guard job at the Holloway County Historical Museum because it paid better than anything else that didn't require me to be on my feet for 12 hours straight, and because I liked quiet. The building is old, originally a private library from the 1890s, converted into a museum in the 1970s. The kind of place where every wooden surface has been polished too many times, and the air smells like dust and lemon oil, with something deeper underneath. Something like damp paper or old wool. My shift starts at 10. The evening guards lock up behind me, and I'm alone until 6 in the morning. No cameras. The director said they couldn't justify the expense for a place that houses nothing of real value. Just dioramas of pioneer life, a taxidermied fox, a collection of butter molds, and a room dedicated to Civil War artifacts. Uniform buttons, a rusted canteen, a letter from a soldier to his sister that no one has ever read aloud. I do my rounds every hour. Same path. Front lobby, west wing, early settlement. East wing, industrial era. Basement storage, back to the front. The flashlight beam feels smaller each time I turn it on, like the dark is pressing against it. The first odd thing happened on my third night. I passed the shoe display, Victorian women's boots, all lined up in a glass case, and thought I heard a soft thump, like a heel tapping the wood. I stopped, listened. Nothing. Checked the case. All the shoes were in place. I marked it as fatigue. The silence here plays tricks. But then, 2 nights later, I heard it again. Same time. Same spot. Thump. Not loud. Just enough to make me pause my walk, heart doing that quick hiccup behind my ribs. I started watching the case more closely. Nothing moved. Yet, after a week, I noticed something. The shoes, once arranged neatly by height, now seemed shuffled. The brown leather one with the rounded toe, which had been far right, was now second from the left. I mentioned it to the morning guard during handover. He squinted at the case. "Must have been the cleaning crew," he said, scratching his chin. "They come in on Wednesdays." It was Thursday. I didn't mention it again. Then the mannequins started changing. Not dramatically. Subtle shifts. The pioneer woman in the kitchen scene, originally posed by the stove, spoon in hand, was found facing the wall. I turned her back. The next night, she was half-turned again, like she was trying to crane her neck toward the door. I began marking positions. A tiny pencil dot on the base of each figure. Checked them during rounds. The dots didn't lie. They moved. Slowly. Incrementally. As if over time, they were turning to look at me. I stopped making eye contact. The worst part wasn't the movement. It was the stillness when I knew I'd left a light on. The museum has motion sensor bulbs in the hallways. They flicker to life when you approach. But twice now I've passed a dark corridor only to glance back and see the light already on. Halfway down, as if something had just passed through. I don't investigate. I keep walking. Sometimes, in the silence, I hear breathing. Not mine. Mine is too shallow. Too fast. This is slower. Deeper. Like someone standing just beyond the edge of hearing, trying not to be noticed. I've started bringing a thermos of coffee. Not because I drink much of it, but because the warmth in my hands feels like proof that I'm still solid. Present. Last night, during my 3 a.m. round, I passed the Civil War display. The soldier's letter, folded, sealed, in a small frame, was supposed to be face down. That's how it was cataloged. I remember thinking it was odd when I first saw it, but this time, it was face up. The seal was broken. I didn't touch it. I stood there for nearly 10 minutes, flashlight trained on the paper. No words. Just the faint indentation of handwriting pressed into the page, like someone had written on it and then erased every mark. Someone had opened it, read it, closed it again. But the case was locked. The key hangs on a chain around my neck. I didn't report it. What would I say? That an invisible hand unsealed a 150-year-old letter in a locked case? I walk slower now. I avoid looking directly at displays. I've noticed that when I don't look, I don't feel them watching. But when I do, there's a mirror in the Victorian parlor exhibit. Oval, silver, tarnished at the edges. It hangs across from a rocking chair that wasn't there last month. I didn't install it. No one mentioned adding it. I passed it 2 nights ago and saw a reflection, just for a second. That wasn't mine. Not clearly. Just the impression of a shape behind me. Dark, leaning forward slightly. The rocking chair was still. I haven't looked into that mirror since. My shift ends in 23 minutes. I've already done my final rounds. Everything appears as it should. Shoes in place, mannequins facing forward, lights off where they ought to be. But the air feels heavier now, denser, like I'm wading through something. I'm sitting at the front desk, pen in hand, filling out my log. All quiet, no incidents. I write it every night. Outside, the world is still asleep. No cars, no wind, just the building, breathing around me. I wonder if they've always been this aware, if they've always known I was here. I think about turning on the overhead lights, flooding the place with brightness. But I don't. Something in me fears what I might see, really see, if I look too hard. Instead, I sit. I wait. The clock ticks towards 6, and somewhere behind me, in the deep hush of the east wing, I hear, just once, the faintest creak of wood. Like a chair, gently rocking. Story 2. Beneath the Silence. They call it Station Holland. 3 miles underground, buried under layers of basalt and bureaucracy. This is where I watch the walls. My job: monitor seismic sensors, air pressure, and the occasional email from the surface. Most days, the only movement is the flicker of my screens, or the drip of condensation on the concrete. I've learned to listen to the hum of the facility, the low groan of settling rock, the sigh of filtration systems, the metallic click of the locked door at 7:15 every morning when the shift change sends a brief pulse of light under my door. It started with the light. The overhead panel in my quarters began dimming, just for a second, each evening at 23:03. At first, I thought it was my tired eyes. The shift rotation here is 12 hours on, 12 off, but sleep doesn't stick when you're this deep. I'd lie in my cot, staring at the white grid of the ceiling, counting the seconds until the flicker. 3, 2, 1. Each night the panel would flare brighter before plunging me into a darkness so absolute I could feel it in my teeth. No circuit breaker tripped. No fault codes. Just a rhythm that fit into my dread like a key. Then the messages began. Not on my screens. Those are clean, clinical, and silent. No. They came in through the PA system, which has been dead since the day I arrived. At first, it was a static cough, like a radio tuning into a dead frequency. Then words. "Acknowledged," a woman's voice said one night, clear as a razor. I waited for the broadcast loop, the scripted apology. Anything. Nothing. Just the drip of condensation and the sound of my own breath. The next evening, at exactly 23:03, it said, "You're late." I told myself it was interference from the magnetometers. The facility sits in a fault line. The Earth's own noise is louder here than any human voice. I started leaving the door cracked so I could hear the control room's equipment thrumming through the walls. It helped at first. The sound of the machines made me feel less like I was dissolving into the rock. The messages grew more frequent. Some nights, they overlapped the flicker. "Your turn," the voice would say as the lights died. Other times it hummed a tune I almost knew, something from a childhood jingle maybe, or a song that never existed. I stopped writing in my log. Pens dry down here. The ink bleeds through the paper like blood through a shirt. Besides, I didn't want to track how long this had been happening. The worst part is the repetition. The facility has a way of folding time on itself. I've memorized the cracks in the ceiling, the exact pitch of the air vents, the way my coffee goes cold in 8 minutes, no matter what. But something shifted. The cracks seem deeper. The vents wheeze now, like they're tired. And my coffee, well, last week I made a fresh cup, And it was cold before my eyes. Not spilled, not mishandled. Just already done. They send supplies down in automated pods. I haven't opened the last one. The label says hydration pack, week 12, but the barcode is smudged. I keep it on the floor by my cot, a hard rectangle that won't lie to me. When I kick it, it thuds solidly. Empty, I think. Or not. I don't check. The voice hasn't said anything in 3 days. The light doesn't flicker anymore. Sometimes I miss the comfort of the dread. Now the silence feels heavier, like the walls are holding their breath. I've started humming to myself, just a tuneless murmur to fill the gaps. It helps, a little. Last night I saw a shadow cross the hall. Or maybe it was the absence of light. I didn't move. My chest tightened, but my feet refused to obey. It passed quickly, whatever it was, and the door to my quarters stayed closed. I still can't tell if it was real, or if my brain is just scavenging for shapes in the rock. Today, the condensation stopped dripping. Everything is still. The air feels thicker, like the filters are holding their breath too. I'm not sure what time it is. The clocks here are synced to the facility's grid, but I've stopped trusting them. I should check the sensors. There's a protocol for anomalies, I'm sure. But the thought of stepping into the corridor, of leaving this small, known prison, feels like a betrayal. So I sit here, waiting for the flicker, or the voice, or whatever comes next. The coffee on my desk is cold. The silence is absolute. Some part of me knows this is the quiet before something... What? But I've learned not to ask questions down here. The answers are too loud. I'll hum a little louder. Keep the silence at bay. For now.